Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's All You Can Geek Moviecast, episode 682. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Gass, joined by Corey Fonsad
Yo.
and Tony Korkanakis.
Hello, hello.
Welcome, guys. Mike will be joining us on the Gamecast, folks. Shortly, we have a regular Gamecast coming up. This is our TV shows of the year podcast to close out the of the years. Mike doesn't really watch TV, so he doesn't have much to put in. So, we have a list of our stuff, top three. That's why he's not on this one, but he'll be joining us in the Gamecast shortly. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Again, we are live on Twitch starting on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. Please join us on these live broadcasts. You can leave your comments while we're broadcasting. And if you miss it live, we're on YouTube the following forever. So subscribe to both channels to get notified when we go live. Once again, this is our of the year. So let me give you the idea here. So this is not necessarily the best shows on TV. This is the stuff that we watched that we loved. And we'll give our disappointment, we'll give our surprise, and we'll do our top three. Just like we've done with our other stuff. By the way, other stuff. We've done movies, we've done games. Check them out. Listen, they're on YouTube. Go on over there, watch that stuff. Leave us a comment. I'd love to know what your top games were last year and your top movies. Last year was kind of crazy with the games. It's interesting lists. We were all different, I think. So unlike the movie, I think the movie was pretty similar. But that's interesting. So here we go, guys. We're gonna always kick off with our disappointment. That way you can end on the strong note.
Yeah.
Disappointing. I am going to start us off with my disappointing. So we'll get the list going. Give me a chance to get my list open. Okay, so I'm going to. Here we go, guys. My most disappointing. Can anybody guess it by chance? One of my favorite characters.
Ahsoka?
Yeah, Ahsoka is my disappointing. As much as I wanted to love the show, the further you get from it, you get away. For me, it's the hype. I loved what I saw. I did, and it's not absolutely terrible. It's not the worst thing that's been on streaming services this year. It had some great moments, but overall, I felt it was very disjointed, and I don't know. It was fan service. The whole thing was fan service, and it didn't tell a story. I felt like it didn't tell a good enough story for it. They had some interesting characters that they didn't elaborate on. I feel like there's enough interesting things that could be great, but because we got no elaboration and we had a really terrible just finale, I felt like it just didn't give us a good enough finale for what could have been the series finale. We didn't know it had a second season. My most disappointing is that, and it's because of the hype I had for it myself and being my favorite character. It's easily my most disappointing this year, easily. And I saw some bad stuff, but this has to take the disappointing category. So
yeah, I'll back up on that one. This is my disappointing thing. And again, it's not bad. I mean, I was pretty harsh on it as I was watching it.
Yeah,
but that's just my overall feeling on Star Wars overall right now. So it gets docked a little bit more than if it were just in a vacuum on its own.
Right.
It's a shame because there are a lot of things I can appreciate about the show. I actually think the special effects and the locations were great, as opposed to my most hated last year, which was Obi-Wan, which looked like they just shot it in random Californian quarries and stuff like that. Rosario, what's her name, does a great job. Dawson, thank you. Does a fantastic job as Ahsoka. I think she really, nailed that character down and her nuances and stuff like that. And then what's her name as Sabine, also a great job,
Yes.
And Benedict, not Benedict, what's his name? The doctor.
Doctor?
As the robot. What's his name? I forget. But anyway, they all did great jobs as the cast members and stuff like that. It was just the plot you kind of see where it's coming from right away, right? And the thing happens, and they own on such a nothing, right? They swap places basically, and then our heroes are stranded, and it's supposed to be this big there's some alternative dark Jedi plot, and it's cool. Right. Well, that didn't resolve anything within its own series, so what are we doing here?
It's David Tennant, by the way.
Thank you, David Tennant. I was it's the other British guy. So it's what are we doing here with this series? And I just think without the context of having Clone Wars, it's not really that
I know
strong.
you mentioned that too. It's without doing the prerequisites, this show does nothing
Yeah,
for you.
absolutely.
It's like there's no point to the show whatsoever. But I agree, all the actors, all the characters and everything, amazing. So, what the heck? Oh, sorry, my phone started moving. Like,
Oh.
started
By the way,
flashing.
I came back
Oh,
because I
hey, Mike.
realized I do have enough to fill out the list convincingly. I forgot that
Mike-
one thing was
Okay.
this year.
Mike watches TV
He's
sometimes.
here.
Mike, watch.
Yeah.
I just introduced you saying you're not coming because you don't watch TV.
No, but yeah, so
Well-
the cast is amazing.
So go on.
Forgot about a big one that
Okay.
was this year.
All right. Yeah. So that was disappointing. Corey, what's your most disappointing? I'll be right
I
back.
totally, honestly forgot Ahsoka. Like that's how like I didn't care about this show.
Yeah.
It might have been my disappointing if I remembered it. What I wrote down as most disappointing was Traders, which is actually a reality TV show, and I thought it was gonna be really
What?
interesting.
What is it?
Traders. It's called Traders.
Traders?
T like
Yeah.
like,
Like Trader Joe's?
No, T like as in
Oh,
like, I'm gonna stab you in the back.
Traitors.
Traders.
Traitors. I've never
So
heard of this.
essentially, the concept is a reality TV show where it's basically werewolf or mafia or
Is it the
whatever.
mystery game?
Sorts of stuff.
Is it
Yeah,
mystery?
like so, like they
Mystery
have
game, yeah.
they get like a bunch. I thought it was gonna be like
Yeah. It looked
the
interesting.
Geniuses type of thing.
Yeah, it looked interesting.
And Alan Cumming is the host
Yeah.
of it, and he's
Yep.
obviously can be super interesting and can be creepy or mysterious or whatever. And but it's a reality TV show in the end, and so essentially it's werewolf, and they do like these mini games and stuff. But there's 3 traders that are gonna start killing off the other contestants in the show, and they have like a round table thing at the end where they just basically play werewolf and discuss who they think the traders are and all that. But it's all arbitrary and it doesn't mean anything in the end.
Mhm.
Mm.
And so really it just comes down to just trying to find stupid things to happen during the show, and it just was really very
Create drama.
disappointing as far.
Create
Yeah,
drama.
just it just turned into a reality TV show that didn't really have much
That sucks.
going
Like
for it.
they just got a second season launched, and I was like, got me interested in it. Like, or they're launching one, I think, and so I was
Maybe they
interested
can
in
improve
this.
on it. I just like because
Yeah.
like we saw with Genius, the Korean one, and then like Tony, you talked about the other one on Netflix, the Devil something or something. it called?
Devil's Plan.
Yeah, Devil's Plan. Those were like, interesting. Like they made it interesting, and they're playing games. And as you guys listened, I'm a big fan of the board game tabletop space, and I thought they could do a really good job with the TV show's version of this, or a specific TV show type of thing. And this was
Mhm.
just stupid. So
Yeah.
that's my disappointing.
All right. Traders. All right. Our surprise of the year. What's funny is I just realized the surprise I wrote down was from 2022. So I'm going with my backup surprise. It's gonna be Poker Face, actually.
Poker Face.
So
Oh,
Lady Gaga?
that could have been my disappointing one actually too.
I liked the show. I don't know, man. I was surprised how much I liked it. I enjoyed it. Like that's why I was
Honestly, yeah. No, good. I mean, I don't want to yuck on your yum, as they say.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
originally, honestly, my surprise because I watched it this year and I didn't realize it came out the end of 2022 was Wednesday. But I realized like, wait, that's a 2022 show. So it was between Poker Face and some of the better stuff that I watched. But I was more expecting Scott Pilgrim to be amazing, and it was. So I feel like for me, I wasn't on my radar at all, and I just really enjoyed the show. I enjoyed it. And I don't like the actress. I don't like her. I think I just don't like. I don't like the way she plays. Yeah, I don't like her character. I don't like the way she plays characters. But this is like the first show that I enjoyed, and I just found every episode like really interesting. I just wish they kept the mystery a little more for you and didn't tell you who did it. That kind of thing. Because at the beginning of the episodes, you know who did it as it starts. I wish they kind of kept that a mystery to the audience, but maybe they should hopefully get a second season because it did very well, and we'll see. So that was my surprise.
I mean, it's about a woman who can tell when people are lying.
Yes, I think I talked about it in the podcast. I actually enjoyed it. So earlier on in the year, I talked about it. So
Cool.
She basically stumbles into a bunch of murder mysteries that she literally stumbles across because she can tell if people are lying to her. And most of the time, it's like, why did he tell me? Why did they just tell me a lie? And then this goes down the rabbit hole of the murder. So that's I enjoyed it. So each murder of the week kind of thing. So, all right, Tony, what was your surprise?
My surprise was the Apple TV show Shrinking with
Nice.
Jason Segel and Harrison Ford.
Nice.
Kind of just came out of nowhere for me. I just was on Apple TV and I was like, oh yeah, I should definitely watch this. And with no context or anything like that, it was a really heartwarming show about overcoming grief and loss and just different ways of coping and therapy, obviously, and stuff like that. So just interesting seeing Jason Segel play. Like he's familiar, but at the same time a little different because you get to see him in like a adult only context where he's swearing and doing drugs and whatnot. Same thing with Harrison Ford. You get to hear him swear a lot and be a cranky old man, which he definitely gets to be these days. But I would highly recommend it if you ever get around to Apple TV.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. That's on my list to get to watch. Hang on, I'm just gonna see. I'm just joining our live broadcast too to make sure we're live. I used to like to sit in here to see if they can answer some questions, but
You were. I saw you guys when I was not on for a minute.
yeah. Anyways, all right. So Corey, you're surprised.
My surprise is One Piece, the Netflix show.
I didn't get to watch it.
Really, I had less than no expectations. I'm like, ugh, really? They're gonna do a One Piece Netflix show? Like, come on! And as we've seen some other live action anime adaptions,
Almost all of them are awful.
pretty awful. Yep. I mean, a lot of times they're just like.
Hope. It gives me hope.
Like,
so go on.
yeah,
Yes.
and they're like Chinese knockoffs too. So a lot of them are like from like China and stuff as well. And so with this one having the people that are involved in it be more involved, like the manga and the anime be involved as well as the Netflix show really helps. They condense the stories down a lot because I think it's like the first 50-ish episodes or something in the first season, and so they cut out a lot of that's like filler, but they really focus in on what's important with those storylines and the characters. Obviously, if you've seen the anime or read manga, like they're fantastic characters, and they give them all a chance to shine and really represent who they are. And the actors do a great job of portraying the characters in a way that doesn't seem too cartoony, but at the same time, cartoony enough where it makes sense for a live action show. And yeah, it just really came out of nowhere as far as a live action adaptation of an anime, and especially the one that's got such history. So
yeah,
I recommend as an anime live adaptation.
Adaptation.
After like Cowboy Bebop and all the other ones we saw, I was very like, okay, here we go. And in fact, like Avatar, for instance, I'm always like, I have more hope for that now because, well, plus the trailers look good, but this show gave me hope that like, hey, we might be getting, maybe they figured it out. Maybe they figured this anime thing out for live action. And
I think they finally realized it's like, wait, if we do a good job and put effort into it, like
that's what the show, that's
can
what
be rewarded for, right? Rather than just
yeah.
we'll license that out cheaply and whatever money we can make off of it, great.
Yep. The actor again. I think getting the actors to really buy into it as well helps a lot. And because sometimes with these other ones that you don't feel like the actors are really there to be those characters. They're just there like, oh, we'll just get a paycheck for this IP thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right, down to our top three, guys. Top three. Mike, you joined us before. Give me your number three, please.
All right. Yeah. I didn't do the other ones because there would be redundancy, but I can do a top three.
Yeah.
So my third one it's not particularly good, but it's not particularly bad either. I almost forgot I watched it this year, and that's Mandalorian season 3.
Oh.
It was inoffensive, but I watched it all. It didn't bother me, but it didn't get me excited.
Would you put it as disappointing though, or no?
I wouldn't bother with that.
No,
I know. I'm just saying, like,
disappointing actually would be the second half of Titans season 4, which happened in April, which I watched. Because that I was higher on that show, and it went worse.
So this one just met expectations.
This one didn't. I didn't really expect much. I kind of felt like Mandalorian is like, it happened already at this point. But it was fine.
I didn't kind of faded, but yeah, go on.
I didn't hate it, but it didn't do a lot for me. So
yeah,
it's 3. I mean, I watched more stuff in the first half of the year when there was less games out, and this was one of them. But I mean, it didn't offend me at all. It had some fun moments, and
It
some
it
of the
did.
new
It did.
some of the new characters were somewhat interesting. But
Okay.
it wasn't. It's not as good as the older first two episodes,
No,
first two seasons.
and this whole
Not
like,
even close, really.
I hate this honestly. The retcon of like making Bo-Katan look kind of like a sympathetic hero type character. Now I'm like,
Well, I don't
Yeah.
have the history
yeah,
with
you
the
don't have,
character.
but like I do. So I'm just like, you're not doing this. Like I'm sorry. Like you could try to redeem, but it's no.
Yeah, they were retconning a few things in this season for that, but I also felt like this could have been a nice, an easy series finale, which clearly it's. I guess it could be still, considering it a movie, but the way they ended it. But you know, all right. My number 3 going to my list here. Hang on. Loki was my number 3. Um, so I always talk about. For me, I always talk about shows, movies, everything like gotta stick the landing. Like you gotta. I think like to finish out, especially something like this that I've enjoyed. I enjoyed the first season like crazy, but Loki was so good. Season 2, this is season 2, right? Yeah. That I and it finished well. Like I really like the finale for me. I actually really enjoyed. I mean, obviously we know what it was. It was like a Groundhog Day kind of thing, but I like thought it worked so well with how they established this show, this season, and I felt like every character, even like what's his name they brought in, Short Round from what's goddamn I always forget his name. Thank you. They brought him in for this season, and he was so impactful and so good. I loved this show. I thought it was great. It's a great finale for this show, a series finale clearly, and I just thought it was so good, and it stuck the landing, and that's why I'm like it's got to be number 3. Like Scott Pilgrim was very good. Don't get me wrong, and it was my number 4, but this had to beat that out. Just because I'm like it's the second season, and I did not expect them to finish it well, and they did. And
Nice.
Owen Wilson, massive credit for him, pulls off a Marvel character, and I didn't think he could, I just overall I didn't think he could do it, but well done. I mean, I just loved everything about this season. It was so entertaining. The time travel thing got obviously a little wobbly and wonky, but it always does, and I think they played that well. They even played that well too.
Yeah.
So I like how they embraced that, and yeah, I can't complain about this. And I didn't. There was not much like fluff. You know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of just filler stuff. It was really well done. So I always felt like they were going to a destination instead of saying going in circles. So literally, even the finale where they were going in circles, but they were going towards a destination, which is what paid off so well. It paid off so well.
No, it really did.
So my number 3 was Loki. So
I was thinking it just because of my number 3 as well.
oh, nice.
Even though it was off to a slow start, I think it was a slow burn, but it was definitely well deserved by the end of the season, where I think the finale really elevated the series as a whole, like both season 1 and season 2. Like I was still high on season 1, but like season 2 like makes me look back at season 1 now. I'm like, wow, like this is amazing.
Tom Hiddleston's fantastic. Like he's really well done. He loves that character. He does it so well. And
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, and multiple versions, and that's what like, you know what I mean? Like, like I said, like you said, it elevates the show and it makes it more Marvel like universe related too. Like it's just so cool what they did with everything. So
yeah, like in a way, thinking about Loki as a character that we know, despite it being multiple Lokis that we've known throughout the MCU, it's crazy to see where he starts as like this, younger adopted brother standing in Thor's shadow, basically. Yeah, right, envious and stuff like that. To where he ends up at the end of Loki season 2, and I just think that's an awesome story arc for that character, rather than just like his fate is like dying to Thanos in
and like the
Infinity War.
Why I'm not getting this word out. The visualization of the entire like finale with him like carrying the weight of the universe essentially. It's so good. They did such a great job of visualizing all of that. And it just makes it more impactful. I don't know. It just makes it the character's growth completely.
Yeah, and that's really what it is, because you see throughout everything, like he's always thinking about himself first, right? You know, he's extremely selfish out of all the characters that we see in the Marvel universe. But you know, where he ends up, uh, quite the opposite actually. So really, you know, fantastic job, and I'm happy that they don't have any more plans for it. Like there's no Loki season 3. Like it's fine to just have things end.
Yes.
And I'm not that I'm saying that the character won't be back in the future or anything like that, but like you know, I don't kind of like what we were just saying about Mandalorian. It's like, you know what, the more I see this, the less exciting it gets, the less interesting it gets. So yeah, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. All right, Corey, give me number 3.
My number 3 is The Last of Us. I think
Ooh.
they did a fantastic job of adapting the game into a TV show, and it makes sense. Obviously, the game is so cinematic already. You could have just turned the game, somebody playing the game, into a TV show, and then just that. But getting the actors that they did, I think the actors, again, like talking about the actors and the casting, amazing job. The actors did a fantastic. The guest actors that appear in certain episodes are fantastic, and obviously the Bill and Frank episode is just like ridiculous. Like that episode will break people. Like you don't need to watch any other part of that show, and just like that episode alone is just like, wow, like this is peak television.
It's not even about your main, not even about your main characters, and it's just like an amazing episode.
Yeah, and the changes they make to it, which is, it just makes it so perfect. So obviously, looking forward to the next season for it. But as far as television goes, I think that they did an amazing job bringing this to life. And it's a video game IP that is a amazing job in live action.
Yeah, so, it just narrowly missed my list, so I'll just mirror a couple things you're saying. I mean, in my part, like in my eyes, I view the main characters almost as like definitive versions now. Like Joel, like Pedro Pascal is kind of like replaced, the game Joel in my mind, and I think that's for the better, right? Because like I don't know. I think the live action version does a little bit to humanize him a bit more, where he's not just like
murder machine,
right? You know,
he's the bad guy,
right? He's the bad guy.
You see that in the second game, essentially. So I'm very curious how they take this.
Absolutely, and that episode with Bill and Frank. Thank you. That was amazing. Like absolutely. Like it's unfortunate in a way, like because that was the peak for me personally.
Yeah.
Just because I preference for the second half of the season. I was like, oh, there's no zombies or anything, but that episode was so strong. Like I still think about that, right? And that's testament because, like, to powerful storytelling,
so
right?
Impactful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that is unbelievable.
That can be a standalone thing on its own without having any context whatsoever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just the moment with the strawberries towards that end of the episode.
Absolutely.
Dare to say that iconic, right?
I think, like I said, the best parts of that show, and just to, I'm gonna just cut Mike here that this was my number 2, but just The Last of Us was my number 2. So I'll just piggyback with all you guys. Like that episode was incredible, and I think set the show because I had some gripes with the show. I felt like that there wasn't enough of the infected aspects of the show, but it is ultimately about the people, and that's what encapsulated that entire episode. It was so amazing. And even like for me, like if you think back to the show of the season 1, it did it made you, the more impactful parts of the show were when it wasn't about your main characters. Like the sub characters in the show were more impactful in my opinion on everybody's lives. And they did such a good job translating the game to this show, like as well. So it's like they somehow told the story of the game, which we love, which we know. And would you say that, would you agree with me that I think every addition they did was incredible? Like, I don't think there was anything wrong that they added that would make you go, can't do this shit. What are you crazy?
Oh, yeah, no, I think the changes they made were for the better for the TV show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even with the brothers, the brothers, the changes they made there, I thought that was so amazing.
Yeah, having them be deaf and using the cell and stuff.
What a great addition, idea, and like, and that was coming from the director. I think that was a director's call to make him that way, I believe, because they actually passed it with was it Druckmann first. They said, hey, is this cool if we do this? And he said, that's a great idea, let's do this. because I just like again, this was a game for me that was my game of the year back when it came out, and I think one of the very rare video games that I have played twice and beaten, or at least twice. It was 3 times actually I played this game, on multiple difficulties, and that does not happen very often for me in my lifetime. Usually when I play a game, I'm done, I move on. But I love the world and the story so much that when they announced this show, I'm like, why? We don't need this. We don't need this. But then after you're done watching it, you're like, we needed this. We got amazing content, and it's totally worth watching, and it's valuable existing. You know what I'm saying? It's not like let's just make a show like Halo because we can use Halo's name and be shit. This is a show that deserved to have existence to it and be a second season. Hell, I want like 3 seasons of it. But we'll see how season 2 goes. But I'm excited for it, and knowing where the story goes a little bit about. I never played the second game, but which is crazy.
That game's amazing.
I know it's crazy. I just have some issues with what they did with my favorite character, but we're gonna get it in season 2 anyway, so we'll see.
Yeah, and just a couple more things, like the stuff with the cannibals. Let's just say the David character, like that.
Yeah.
So creepy, and they really pulled off that.
Pulled it off. Pulled it off well, and they recreated the restaurant scene with her in it. Like they brought. I mean, it's unbelievable what they did for this. And the Fireflies, the finale, just the finale of it. They did a great job with this. Great job. So can't say it enough. That's why it was easy. My number 2. All right, Mike, what was your number 2?
My number 2 is going to be part 2 of season 4 of Doom Patrol. I'm actually still not really done with this. I was going to put Titans on my list, but I realized that I hated it compared to this. Even though I don't see the ending,
okay.
I know it's better. I know it's going to be better because Doom Patrol has been more consistent the whole way through, and Doom Patrol is just a real mindfuck of a show, and it's been consistent. And I see these last few episodes of the second half have been same stuff, and I've enjoyed it. Looking forward to how it actually ends. But I know that the show is so surreal that it almost doesn't matter how it ends. It reminds me a bit
It's
like
the journey.
Legion.
It's the journey.
Like, well, I liked Legion for similar reasons back when that was on FX. It's a similar idea. Everything is so like I didn't love the ending of Legion, but I still liked that last season. So
Yeah.
because it's just when you get into things where there's like worlds within worlds, people are like in someone's mind, like multiverse stuff, like meta commentary, like all this nonsense, like I'm sure some people's eyes will glaze over and like, oh, this is just a bunch of stupid bullshit, but it's fun. I find it fun, even if it doesn't always you don't know what to count as the real plot per se sometimes, but it doesn't matter. It's fun, and it leans into how fun it is and how nonsensical it is. Like I said, like they're trying to fight the zombie butt apocalypse here in this last thing with a guy who can create reality from his art. Like that's what's happening here. So, gotta save us from the zombie butts.
Okay.
That's why Doom Patrol's my number 2.
All right, Tony.
Number 2 is going to be Ted Lasso, season 3. I think.
Okay.
Season 3.
Yep,
Yeah.
season 3.
Yeah. And arguably, season series finale, stuff like that. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, for this show to have like come out of nowhere, and really, I mean, I couldn't care less about football or soccer here in America.
The
Hockey balls.
Yeah, I literally couldn't. But this show came out, and just everybody on the show does an amazing job acting, and you have the lighthearted comedy, but you still have these moments of pure emotion. That really runs that range from tragic and sad to ecstatic and euphoria and stuff like that. You get to see some of these characters accomplish like their dreams and their hopes and wishes, and it's just heartwarming, right? In the sense it's like, wow, this makes me happy that I'm watching something like this, right? Because I think these days it's really easy to watch these things, series, not picking on it, but like Last of Us would be like, well, that sucks. Humanity sucks. We're all doomed. Hope this shit doesn't happen, etc. Or just like, or Game of Thrones, Walking Dead. Or it's like, man, what's the point? Like, just fucking,
Rare
what's the
to
point,
have a
right?
feel good. It's ready
Yeah,
to have a
exactly.
feel good show.
Right. You don't have that feel good. But Ted Lasso is that. And even though, I probably would prefer one more season myself, I'm happy they're going out on their own terms and they're not dragging it
Mhm.
out and just, again, just like maybe overstaying its welcome.
Yep.
Mhm.
Cool.
I'll piggyback on that, Tony, because that's my number two as well.
Nice.
Oh,
Season 2, 3 of Ted. Ted has a really special place as a series for me, because when it came out and the things that are going on in my life and things that are going on in the world in general, it really just resonated big time. And like I talked about in the movie cast and like we talked about earlier, but like ending things and how things end and going out on your terms, like you mentioned, going out on top or going out when like you want to leave them wanting more. You don't want to
Yep.
be leaving when it's like, oh, just get out of my face already. Like you could go away.
Yeah.
We're leaving on a note where like you want more. You want to see these characters because of how well they're acted, how amazing these people are, how they come together as a team, how it's such individuals at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, but then they can like have all these different, like you're saying, impactful and heart wrenching and
Yeah.
heartwarming moments. You're crying because something's sad. You're crying because you're happy. It's just all these things, and yet it's all positivity. Everything is just positive. Everything is just bringing you up and uplifting. Where like you mentioned, Last of Us, like what resonates so much with the Frank and Bill episode is because you're in a shit world, but there's
Yeah.
so much positivity in that
Yep.
episode, and
true.
you can
Good point.
see life being beautiful. And this show is just about that. And so it's such an amazing season and series finale that I'm glad it ends where it ends. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, I would love to see more, but I'm happy that they're not dragging us out.
Yeah, and shout out to like Jamie Tart, because I hated that
Hmm.
character in season one. I was like, fuck this guy, like fuck this bozo, this clown, get him out
Yeah.
of here, this showboating asshole. And the series really makes you root for the guy by the end of it.
Hmm.
Yeah. I
Definitely.
mean, I'll just piggyback
Oh.
all of you guys. This is my number one.
Nice.
Hmm.
Again, I started my list talking about sticking the landing with Loki, and season 3 of Ted Lasso is incredible viewing, just like all the other seasons. Each one of them have their strengths and weaknesses. Don't get me wrong, but overall, they're all like positive, feel good shows that it's so rare to not just be like it's good and it's not boring. I don't know how like where we came from where we like the new style of entertainment where if it's good it's boring. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how we got to there. It's got to be like Walking Dead. It's got to be apocalyptic to be interesting. It's got to be like uh, something's wrong. It has to be something going on. No, this
Save the
has to happen.
world because
Even
doom and
even when
gloom.
yeah, even when watching this, even when watching this show, you're always like, when's it dropping? When are we gonna get some bad shit? And it never fully drops. That doesn't mean there's not drama, but it stays positive to it to the point where it's like I just loved every season of this show. I want more, like you guys said, spin-off. Give me a spin-off. That's cool with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because the side characters are as good as the main character. Easily.
Mm-hmm.
Easily. And that's where it's like this show can continue without the main character. And it's even though I love the character, to get me wrong, it can go on without him, and I'd still enjoy the show like crazy. Like Roy Kent, incredible.
Yeah.
Like I want more. Jamie Tart, like you guys said, um, even what's the guy who owns his own restaurant now? That whole drama with his father and all that. I just like love what they did with every sub character
Mm-hmm.
of the show.
Yeah.
Had such impactfulness, like in the story that you didn't expect from it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just it was so good. It's so good. Like I can't recommend this show enough to people. It's sad that it's gonna finish. That right now it's ending, and like I said, I hope they get a spinoff. But easily, when I started my list, number one for
Yep.
me, easily.
Mm.
So my number one. But all right, that's my number one. All right, Mike, give me your number one.
My number one is, and I mentioned this earlier. I recommended it to you guys. I don't think any of you watched it. Was Jury Duty. Um,
Oh, that's where you talked about this one. Yeah.
yeah, Jury Duty was from the same producers, I think, of The Office. It's kind of a once in a lifetime show. You can't really give it a second season. You can't convincingly, I don't think, replicate this ever again. The premise is, um, if you don't know, it's a fake trial about. Doesn't really matter what it's about, but it's about a guy who gets fired for like screwing up on the job. And they basically want to create a 12 Angry Men scenario where someone wants to like prove that he may not be guilty or not. You don't know for sure exactly, but that's not the point. The point is the jury, the jurors, um, whole case, everything is all fictitious, and you know that from the beginning. Um, but there's one person, one guy, who on jury duty who doesn't know that. One guy is just a regular guy they got in there. So this is a sort of a reality show, but not really. A reality show for one guy, and it's an elaborate 24-hour like stage play basically for everyone else who's an actor. And James Marsden is in it as himself, but a dick version of himself, which is funny because one of the recurring themes of this, the main guy, the real guy, it's so funny because you see he so much wants to make friends with James Marsden, but every now and then James Marsden just does something like ridiculously comedically dickish, and then he has to like step back a bit. He's like, "Oh, damn it, James!" But he keeps going back. He still wants to be his friend. It's so funny. Um, no, it was just crazy how they pulled this off, and you watch it, and you're both interested in even the fictitious case, but you're mostly interested in how this one guy is going to react to everything. If he'll figure out that his whole world, he basically got Truman showed for like a month,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and and it's and it actually in the end like it ends up pretty heartwarming too because like the guy ends up being like unironically like a good guy in situations that they didn't even expect, and he was well, I mean, watch it if you want, and there's actually a pretty good commentary that's like an extra episode where you see how they pulled some of this stuff off. But yeah, very unique show. I don't see how you could ever do a season 2 or even replicate it again, but that was the most interesting thing I watched all year.
What service was this on again?
Amazon?
Jury Duty, it was on it was something for free. I think it was on Amazon maybe,
Was it?
but it's like the free tier, I
The
think.
freebie?
Okay,
Freebie?
yeah, I'll take it.
Freebie,
I'll take
yeah,
it. I remember
yeah.
you mentioning it, and I was gonna watch it with the
Yeah.
girl I was seeing at the time, but I think we
Oh
just
yeah, yeah. The
didn't
the
get around to
style
it.
of the fictitious parts is very like Office vibe.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it, like they told him that they were filming a like actual documentary,
Right.
or
Yeah.
so he does do confessionals and stuff like that. Now turns out like that would be illegal in a real trial, but he obviously
Yeah.
he doesn't know that. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it was very funny.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right.
I recommend that highly.
Tony, you're number one.
My number one came out of left field for me. Could have been my surprise, but I didn't want to get too redundant. So I'll just say number one for me was Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
Oh, I wrote it. I wrote it down.
Yeah.
I wrote it down before you said it. Look at that.
You know me a little too well.
Yeah.
But what can I say about this? Because don't get me wrong, I love Scott Pilgrim just as a franchise. I think it really was one of the front runners of this like weird indie thing that busted out and became part of like the cultural like phenomena, zeitgeist, whatever you want to call it, where it's like, oh, this is somebody who's like us, a gamer, a nerd, a whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
and he's making something that appeals to us, right? It's made by someone like us for us, way back in the day, starting with the comics and then the eventual movie, which unfortunately flopped. Even though it was great, and the video game. So what other medium could they explore but anime, right? And
Yeah.
it's something that I think everybody wanted for years, but nobody really talked about until Netflix was like, "Hey, we got a Scott Pilgrim anime coming out like next year or whatever." It was a very short turnaround time. We're like, "Oh, okay, like that's cool," And going into it, you're expecting a one-to-one adaptation, right? And this is the one thing I'm not going to spoil for people because I think people should watch it with no expectations there. But wow, like just by the end of the first episode, you can see what the hook is going to be for the series, right? And as an adult, where I am now in my life compared to where I saw like the comic and the movie when it came out, right? I'm at a different place in my life, and you can see this with the creator because it was done with in unison with him, right? And Edward Wright and all the other creatives involved in it. But having a chance to take a look at your own past work and do some things that maybe fix it, or take some of the problematic things and replace them, or just a second chance, right? To right some
Mm-hmm.
wrongs or just fix some things, because no matter who you are, I think you're going to be influenced by where you are in life, right? As a writer, as
Mhm.
a singer,
Right.
a creator,
What's going on in the world
right?
around
What's
you
going
at
on in
the
the world,
time.
right?
Yeah.
And just like Courtney, and we had a discussion with somebody over the weekend, like Evangelion, right? Where when that series came out, uh, the creator was in a very dark place, so that had a very
No shit.
dark ending,
No shit.
right?
Yeah.
And decades later, he got a chance to do movies that really flipped our concept of that series upside down. And by the end, I was like, damn, like I love this series now, right? Whereas like
Yeah.
before, it was like a rocky, like up and down hate relationship. It was
It's
like
such a
shit, like
jumbled mess. Like, yeah, I just
Hmm.
yeah.
exactly. So for me, Scott Pilgrim does that. It gives us more of the characters. It makes a lot of them actual characters rather than just kind of tropes or like
Yeah.
caricatures almost, where it's like,
Right.
oh,
You get
this
more
is
of them a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh, this is the Indian kid with like weird mystical powers, and like, oh, this is the skateboarder, movie star dude. It's like, yeah, those are the same tropes, but like we get developments from them. We get to see their thought process. We get to see, what made them tick and stuff like that. So for me, I think it was just like the antithesis of what Scott Pilgrim, the comic and the movie was, and this gives it a whole new dimension and meaning to
Yeah.
everything, right?
Mhm.
I mean, to be fair, like I was ready for a 1-to-1 and was good with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't get that, which is cool. I'm very happy we didn't, but I was ready for that and very happy with what we got. It was
Mhm.
excellent. Excellent show.
Definitely, and the fact that they brought all the voice actor, or the
Yeah,
live action
I mean
actors,
that
the
is
voices.
incredible. I cannot believe that. It
That
is
is
something that
amazing.
Passion project. Clearly passion project for
passion
all of
project
it.
for all those
Yeah.
And
people.
that too leads to the fact like, oh, is this just going to be a adaptation of the movie or whatever, or
Yeah.
something like that?
Yep.
Even like it's going to be the comic or it's going to be the movie, but nobody expected it's going to be its own thing.
Yeah. No. Great. Cool. Number one. All right, Corey, finish up our list. What's your number one?
All right, my number one's been mentioned already.
Oh,
It's Loki season two.
Ooh, Loki
wow.
took number one. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, I love this season. And then
That's great.
I was not expecting it to be anywhere near as good as I thought it was gonna. I ended up with it being, and it was like, it wasn't necessarily like obvious that it was gonna be my number one. Like 10 and Last of Us were like, uh, obviously shows that I loved and talked about on the show, but see with Loki, and you guys mentioned it earlier as well. Just the journey of where we got to at the end compared to where we started, and just seeing that progress, seeing the actor and the character go through this, and it is decade worth of content that we've gotten, I think, kind of culminating into this as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that also is impactful here for me. But just seeing that arc, which you mentioned earlier, is just an amazing character progression that we get into a point where it's like, yeah, he's just this bratty jerk kid in Thor, the movie one, and he falls off a bridge, and he has a quote there, and they end the show with him saying the same exact thing, and it has a completely different meaning from
Yep.
when he says it in the movie to where he says it at the end of this show, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. And then the music in this show is
Oh yeah. Yeah.
probably my
That was good.
favorite soundtrack in any show I watched this year. I love the music and the characters; they all nailed it. Even like
Even majors.
Jonathan
Yeah.
Majors, yeah.
Yep.
It's he's maybe a terrible person, but his acting,
A
he
horrible
can
person,
like
but yes.
he can like he has different styles. His characters are completely different people, and so seeing that and just like realizing what Loki has to go through to get to where he is at the end of this show, even from the beginning of
Yeah.
the season to where he ends the season.
Yeah, it's a
And
crazy journey. Yeah.
it's just the sacrifices that he's making uh, throughout the whole thing, and then having that decision he has to make at the end
Yep.
is just the complete opposite of what he would have done in any of the movies prior to this. And then Owen Wilson is just amazing. It's like it's Hannibal, right? His name or something.
Uh,
What's his name?
I never remember his name, to be honest with you. That's why. That's why when I talked about it, I refer to
Mobius.
it as
That's it.
Morpheus.
Moby. Yeah.
Mobius.
I
only
Mobius. I know it doesn't sound right. Mobius. But yeah, his arc is so good. Like, because
Jet skis.
he just
and,
seems exactly, and he has kids, and yeah, and just like him believing in Loki, and just seeing that relationship grow, and some of the questions they have at the end, like when Loki talks to him. And he doesn't like no Mobius doesn't know that Loki's been through all this before, and he just asks him certain questions, and just that interaction is amazing. And it's like, how do you know? And it's like
even his closure. Like I'm gonna stay here for a little while.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like the end. Like even for him, like they did such a great job. I'm sorry, they really did. You're right.
Absolutely. Not to be
It's such a
sorry,
great
but
job.
and one thing I didn't mention, but you touched upon it, of course. I just wanted to shout it out, but like towards the end, either in the last episode or the second to last episode, where Loki's doing one of the difficult things you mentioned, right? Where it's just like kind of the Groundhog's Day situation, right? Where and we talked about it before on this podcast with other things, but I love a good Groundhog's Day kind of like reference, homage, whatever you want to call it. But like this one hits a little bit different, right? Because it's just like you just see the desperation of like we know what we need to do, and he's trying to get it done, and it's like the one part where he's like explaining to what's his name, the doctor, like, hey, you need to do this and don't set it down because it's gonna roll off. Like he's like, what did I say? Like he's like, what did I say about setting it down? Like like just the franticness and like the just you turn something comedic and then eventually it gets kind of sad. He's like, well, how long would it take for me to learn blah blah? It's like centuries. It's like, oh, like
And
that's fucking real, right?
And it's centuries later. Yeah, I mean, it's just
centuries later.
unbelievable. They did such a great job. Wow. Excellent show.
Yeah,
You're
just that ending that we see, just the steps that he's taking, literal steps.
literal steps. Yeah,
That takes that sequence is one of the best, and the music, like all that is like probably my most favorite thing I've watched on television this year.
yeah. All right, cool. All right, guys, that's our of the year list for TVs. That's our of the years for the year of 2023. So my number one was Ted Lasso. Corey's was Loki. Tony's was Scott Pilgrim, and Mike's was Jury Duty. This year, bringing all new stuff. I will say right now to give you guys a little tease right now. Ted, surprisingly very good.
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, I love it. I'm laughing at night. I'm like trying to be quiet in the house. I'm like, this is great. Ted's been very good, and Echo was a great start. So we have some great stuff going on this year. Stay tuned for that. Now next week, most anticipated for shows and movies. So stay tuned for that. We do combine that episode, so you get them in both. Stay tuned for that. We're live on Twitch Tuesday nights. Join us live. We are on YouTube, all the content, and Gamecast coming up next. So please stay tuned for that. A lot of stuff going on. We'll see you guys on the Gamecast. We're out.